Your most famous client and some of your most famous suits are the ones that you made for Jordan Peterson. What appealed to you about him as a client, and how did that whole connection come about?
I don't know if he's our most famous client. I think it depends on the demographic.
Probably for my demographic.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally, because like for some, it's like Ozzy Osborne is like, and they would know who Jordan is. And then there's guys, there's this Mr. Anatoly guy who goes to the gym dressed like a janitor, picks up really heavy weights, and everyone's like, oh my god.
I've heard about this
And
guy. Oh, you do his suits?
yeah. So for
Ah,
some people,
right.
it's him. And then I'll tell you a funny story. I was doing a university lecture in China, in Hong Kong. It was the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which is like where a lot of Chinese mainland students go to study in Hong Kong and like learn about capitalism. And I showed a company video showing like all these famous people wearing our suits, and I gave them a prize for whoever guessed, one person from the video. They just knew one celebrity. It was the easiest thing ever. And the only person anyone named right was Greg Doucette, Coach Greg, who's like an online fitness
Right.
influencer. So you just never know. I just learned that like we're so in our bubbles when it comes to clothing, that, or anything in celebrity now, right? It's so compartmentalized.
Absolutely.
But Jordan is an awesome guy. I just really wanted him to wear our suits. I had a goal. I had a vision that I set. I had Dwayne the Rock Johnson on my background, or my screensaver on my computer for a long time, because I wanted to get him in our suits. And a lot of times when something that you create as a goal comes true, it comes true in a form that's slightly different from how you imagined it when it does come true. That's a common theme I've heard from a lot of successful people. So I never actually got to physically meet The Rock, but I did 12 suits for his movie Skyscraper. So, and we were credited in there. So that was a vision. And after that, I needed a new person to kind of aspire to dress in our suits, and that was
Right.
Jordan. So, yeah, I found, I use my salesman's tactics. I am a sales guy, very proudly, by the way. Companies need competitive advantages. For example, like, if you look at like a brand like Ask OK online, the hello class, great guy.
Yeah.
Their competitive advantages, they've built an incredible social media following and community. That's incredible. It really is. You look at a company like Brioni, their competitive advantage was the fact that they were connected to every celebrity on the planet since the mid-'50s. I mean, that's really, Brioni was all about the Oscars, right? Our competitive advantage is our distribution model, so that I don't have the crazy online following like Ask OK. Didn't have the, Oscar prestige of Brioni. But I'm a salesperson that's able to pick up the phone, make calls, and likewise, that's our company. Our tailors go to people's offices. So our competitive advantage is that we have a direct distribution strategy that most companies can't compete with. So I used what I knew best. I used the art and science of sales to identify a prospect and make a call and reach out to that prospect and work the Dimitry magic, let's say, which is what I've done. It wasn't the first time I've done it. I've been doing, I met Jordan in 2023, I guess, and I've been, in sales since '03. So 20 years, that's what I've been doing for 20 years.
Right.
So there was a lot of competency to back up that action, right?
So when you first came across Jordan, I assume either online or through a TV interview like most of us, what was it that you saw in this guy, and then you followed on for a few years, that kept him as one of your ideal clients?
Honestly, I'll tell you what it was. And I didn't know this when I found him. I think his brother was already buying suits from us, which made the leverage for an introduction a little bit more safe on their side, because obviously, by the time I was able to connect with him, like everybody wanted to connect with him. It's just how life works, right? I guess what I liked, I came across a couple of his university lectures, actually, and my algorithm suggested it, which is, what those algorithms do. And I liked it. I listened. It was one of his Harvard lectures, and it was all about IQ. Actually, it was about like IQ for different professions. I watched the whole thing. Then I started getting into his story lectures with like Lion King and Pinocchio, and I just found it fascinating and interesting, And then it kind of got into the stuff I'm very personally passionate about, which is like meritocracy. The reason I'm personally passionate about it is because I also grew up in the Soviet Union, and so anybody that comes from communism generally doesn't like it. It's just surprise. Nobody likes going to the gulag. And so meritocracy was something I'm very passionate about, especially being in sales and then starting a company and being an entrepreneur. I don't have health insurance. I not for my employer. I don't have paid vacation. I don't have any guarantees. Like, I've never actually that's not true. I was employed for 3 weeks at a gas station in Canada in high school. That's it. That's the only time I've ever had an hourly wage. Everything else in my life has always been I eat what I kill, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
when he talks about meritocracy, that's very personal to me because, when people talk about like, oh, underprivileged, disadvantaged, give me extra because of my background or my parents' background. It's like, dude, I come from welfare. I come from social housing, because when we first moved to Canada, it was like, you just get some money and get yourself set up, and then there's all that. So I know that, like, I'm not going to apologize for what I've accomplished or what I should accomplish or will accomplish, I should say. I don't think I've accomplished that much yet, not to where I want to go. So when he talked about meritocracy, that really hit me hard because I really felt very passionate about that, right? Like, because I think by the standards of the years that he was talking about it, a lot, 16, 17, 18 and all that. By that point, I think already just from my my presentation demographic, I was the enemy. I was a white looking fella, right? Wearing a beautiful suit outside, and obviously I somehow, and my demographic somehow became the target of racism, actually. Like that's what it is. And so when he was talking about, meritocracy being a merit to aspire towards and truth being the highest principle to live towards, I just spent a lot of time thinking about that myself. And I thought, man, I wish I had a guy like that talking to me when I was in my 20s, because the stuff he's saying is distilled into its purest aphorism, yeah. It's like in its purest form, and it took me decades upon decades of figuring that stuff out. So I was like, I want this guy, man. And he actually became hyper famous, like he was already known, but he was hyper famous a few months after I made that decision. So
right.
Yeah.
I remember first coming across him when I was 18, and it was that Kathy Newman interview that I just happened to watch in the kitchen with my mom, who had the news on, and I bought that book. And as you say, if you'd had that information when you were in your 20s, for me, discovering that level of, I think it was the discipline was the message that I really took from that. Just the simplicity of making your bed, which for an 18-year-old student at the time was not really something that other people were saying. I think his messages came at a moment when the zeitgeist in popular culture was the complete opposite.
Right.
When it comes to the clothing, when he first started to gain traction, he was kind of dressed like a sloppy college professor, like a lot of people. And then he got a bit of fame, and then he starts dressing in better and better suits. And now the kinds of things you put him in have a kind of novelty element almost, right? How would you describe taking him from the more classic style of the navy suits, the gray suits, into what you've done with him today? Was that your idea? Was that his idea? How did you go in that direction?
Well, so the suits he was wearing were actually pretty reasonable for what you said, like tweed kind of stuff. There wasn't a lot of coordination, and that's kind of what you see with a lot of people, like professor types, is like, what you're going to do is you're going to buy some clothing, but they're going to be bought over time from different stores, without thought about what you've had and don't have, and so everything just kind of, it's like a cornucopia of different things, but it doesn't necessarily work all in tandem, right? So I think that's kind of what people are noticing, is it started to work in tandem. Now, in terms of like how wild it was, that was something else. So I wanted to capture his attention, like in the sense of not just, hey, I'm going to make you suits, but like, hey, like, I want to get on the same wavelength as what I think something that would appeal to you. And so I really just thought, look, this is a university professor. He's a guy that's used to receiving a lot of papers and grading papers. And I made a bet on myself that I can write pretty well. And I made a bet on myself that I can speak the language. So I studied. Like, that's what I did, is I ended up, I hadn't actually read the book at that point, so I picked it up and I read it a few times. I listened to it a few times. I sort of looked at it the way I looked at, a university course on that book. And if I were to write an essay about that book and sort of expound on the foundational principles of each chapter, and then just reduce them down to the most reductive form I can think of in terms of representing it as in a garment. So, for example, the heaven and hell suit is the one that I think became the most famous. And that's the one with the blue and the red. And one side is made out of sheep's wool. One side is made out of goat's wool. It's like the judgment of nations from Matthew 15, I think. But anyways, so So I was just, that was chapter 2, and it was like the theme of the chapter was bringing order to chaos, and the line was the line that was the Solzhenitsyn line. It was the line between good and evil cuts through the heart of each man. And I thought, well, what if the line between good and evil cut through the heart of the suit?
Right.
And and it was the order and chaos suit, which the internet dubbed the heaven and hell suit. But it was a very obvious and simplest way to represent that chapter for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I put together like literally a pitch deck, and I wrote out, I wrote out what I'm going to put together and how I'm going to make the process work, and I put a couple examples in the email. Like once we already had a chance to connect, and I was like, "Here's what I want to do," and he's like, "That sounds fun. Let's go for it." Then we had a Zoom call scheduled, which I'm sure he completely forgot about because it was like a few weeks later, and he's busy, man. And so he showed up. He's like, "Oh, the guy can tell." He's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "It's a suit thing." Okay. And at first he was kind of like sort of tepid to the idea because I just kind of started talking about suits. And then I jumped into this PDF I created. Everything was illustrated, all the avatars, and then I could see he got into it. He's like, "Oh, this guy." He was like, I could see he was like, "This guy put work into it, right?" And I really put work into it. And like I said, I made a bet on myself that I could write well, that I could present it well, and that I could also express and so it was very personal, I think, to him because it was his words that I was interpreting, right?
Yes.
And yes, the suits came out a little jarring. Let's use that word, and I'm aware of that. And I think part of that is wasn't so much like, oh, I want to dress them up very loud. It was more like I just want to do a really good job on the suits. Like for example, one of the chapters is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And there's a color in the RGB scale. It's called truth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like truth 9, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, whatever, something. So, so that's the color. I didn't choose the color. It was already there for me, right?
Right. There's an element here of obviously menswear and fashion always has an element of art, but I would say that these suits in particular take the art to another level. And I remember that a few years ago, he started talking about how young men need to take their image more seriously, need to dress up, and he was definitely leading by example. When you get into the area of these more outrageous or novelty suits, do you think that's still dressing up and still presenting yourself in the best way, or do you think it's another game altogether?
Well, first of all, not all the suits were outrageous or artsy. So the Heaven Hell suit, obviously, it's stark. It's like, whoa, it's like right there, right? Other than that, like nothing in the collection was particularly out of sorts. Like, yeah, there was one suit with like jade stone in it. So it's a green suit. It's a tuxedo actually, but people don't even know it's got actual jade stone crushed into it because jade is an element that represents wealth and prosperity and good fortune in Asian culture. And we needed something to represent that for one of the chapters. So there wasn't anything particularly wild out there. It just so happened that when I delivered the collection, the suit he absolutely loved the most was the Heaven Hell suit. Like I just tell you, he's like, that's amazing, right? And then he just starts wearing it everywhere. And I thought, hey, like maybe he is into this kind of stuff. I don't know. So so at the time, what was happening was this is a little bit of a controversial suit because I could tell that he was sort of trying to entice Elon Musk into a conversation because Dr. Peterson had just been allowed back on Twitter when Elon Musk acquired it. So I thought, why not celebrate with a Twitter suit, with the Twitter colors, and it's made out of it looks velour. It's made out of a light corduroy, like 160 gram corduroy or something. So I made like a Twitter colored suit. And what's funny about it is inside the jacket, I put actual screenshots of quotes of people hating on Jordan Peterson. So the quotes are like, "You dress like a Willy Wonka. Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?" Like, it was just like very negative. And I said, here's the joke. The joke is when you put it on, your haters, and the haters don't care. It's what I notice about it, whether you like or don't like somebody's clothing is just a function of whether you like or don't like them. It's just there's a very strong correlation. I see the comments online, right? So I intentionally put negative comments. I'm like, let's troll them. Like, if you put this on and people are like, "Oh, look at you, blah, blah, blah," all the comments are already in there. Like, it's literally made to incite a little bit of that hatred,
Yeah.
Which
the lining is an interesting element of the suit because it's an area where some people like to get extremely playful and other people, personally, I don't like a fancy lining. I like the plainest lining you could go for. But some people like to really express their personality. What would you say the split is between your general clients of people that are looking for something a bit out there and something very personal versus somebody who just wants a great classic looking suit?
Well, look, a great classic looking suit can still have a crazy lining inside, right? Like it doesn't matter. I say stop being so damn boring, man. Have a personality. The thing about a lining, it doesn't have to be audacious. It can just be something very personal. Like one client I remember was like super into the Raptors, so we cut up and put a Raptors jersey into the lining. I have a client I was just with that loves watches, so we put all of his like watch collection into the lining. It could be something,
Right.
maybe you have a cat you really love. I have 2 cats and they're adorable. Anyways, some people, like they'll put their kids into their collar. Like it doesn't have to be audacious. It could just be personal. And for me, that's something I enjoy. I would say 80% of clients are very much into having a lining that they can just not get off the rack because it gives them an opportunity to explore a little bit of creativity or just have somebody recommend something fun.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's different when you're talking about. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, James. But when you're talking about out here, like the gray stripe and all that, like the suit I'm wearing, nobody buys that. I love the suit. It's a beautiful burgundy suit, but it's like people literally just go to blue, gray, solids, and stripes, and that's fine if they're not going to stick their head out of the herd. I understand.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who is obviously a walking business card in a sense, and you have the resources to have infinite number of suits, how do you choose what you're going to wear? For example, just doing a podcast interview, meeting a client. Do you tailor your appearance somewhat to the people that you will be meeting on that given day?
That's a great question. I used to. I did. It was now I think I've become irreverent. Like that's just how I am now. So I did a trigonometry podcast. I knew it was a huge audience. And I said, screw it. And people are like, what's he wearing? I went with a linen striped suit and a linen flower shirt. Like I went full summer vibes and people are like, oh, nothing there matches. It's like, no, it's a summer outfit from Miami. I'm just wearing it in cold ass winter England in December. Okay. And there's something I heard from a tailor when I was learning the business. He said, when you don't know anything about clothing, your shoes and your belt don't match. Now, then when you learn how to dress well, your shoes and your belt, they match. But when you're a tailor, they don't match again.
Right. It's that whole thing of once you know the rules, you can break them.
Yeah, so exactly. So for me now, it's like recently I've gotten into turtlenecks and my wife just finds it very amusing. And I'm not wearing my hat, but I got into hats recently. I don't know. I'm not a hat guy, but that's a cool hat. Anyways, so now, I have like a cool fedora for my friends at like Bellissimo hats, custom hats. And I guess they're in New York. And like, now, like I have tailored tracksuits. They're just freaking hilarious. Like, like chav suits, like real, like from the movie The Gentleman, right? Now, the guys in my office, we have a multinational company here. We have salespeople in like 20 countries or so. Yeah, the guys in my office, they're building their career. They're meeting with lawyers and bankers, closing deals every day. They're going to be dressed like you. They want to show the prestige. They want to show the class. They want to show the classic prestige, right? If I showed up like this in a meeting with a client most of our clients are going to be like, in the white collar professions, they're going to look at me and be like, I would never take a fashion advice from that guy because he looks insane.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur these days, right? I started out, meeting clients day to day. Nowadays, I'm mostly in the back office by myself doing, like talking to my finance, like all day today. And then, dealing with like payroll, and then I have to talk to whatever. So I can just do what I want now. And I'm planning on continuing really enjoying that privilege.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of men really underestimate what a pleasure it can be to simply create an outfit. And the more options you have, then the more outfits you can create. I think one thing that women are typically so much more interested in doing that and so much better at it, which is why they spend more time shopping and more time on clothes. So many men, I think, see clothing as just a function and a utility, and it's not something they enjoy specifically. And it's such a shame. And then when people get into menswear and tailoring, then they begin to appreciate that art form.
That's the whole point, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like that's actually when you brought up Jordan Peterson earlier, like he got it. It's fun. And I tell my sales guys, like, why should, and because sometimes as a salesperson or a business person, you have to sell yourself on what you're doing. Because the more you believe in what you do, the better you're going to do it, right? Like that's the definition of passion. You have to work on that and build that. Nobody's going to motivate you, right? You have to inspire yourself. So when my younger people come to me, it's like, why should a guy buy this or this or this? And they do these advanced evaluations. You don't have a taupe safari jacket made out of cotton for the summer. I'm like, dude, all that is great, but like remember the main thing, man. The main thing is it's just fun. Like, so clients
Yes.
like, why should I buy some suits from you? I'm like, you don't have to do anything, but it's damn fun. Like, are you earning your money to have fun, or why are you earning your money?
Yeah, and it's a feeling as well that people are paying for. I mean, this suit that I'm wearing now is an impulse buy, which is not. I don't typically buy suits on impulse, But when I put it on, I just thought I love this feeling. This is it. This is great. This is the only one they have left. So now or never. Now we spoke a little bit about your personal belief system and growing up in the Soviet Union, and then the ideas about meritocracy. Do you feel like that expresses itself in the designs you create, or just the very idea of dressing in a more formal style today? Do you think that's in any way linked to a political view or a worldview?
Absolutely, man. Like, so, when I was in my 20s, one thing that inspired me to improve myself as a man was that I liked girls and they didn't seem to like me very much. So I thought, well, I should probably become better at something. And anyway, so as I was sort of gaining my competency in that very important arena for a 20-year-old guy, I was probably the worst dressed person in the world. In fact, I'm sure like most people would have like never expected me to get into this business, right? And so I had a friend, and he was like, man, he was winning at life, and he was like, man, you got to dress better, wear cool, good shoes, like you got to, get yourself some nice American Eagle jeans. Like something like just start, not wearing sweatpants everywhere, right?
Right.
And I'm like, why? Like, if a girl saw me dress up, wouldn't she just think I'm trying too hard? And he goes, no, if she saw you dressed like you're dressed now, she just thinks that you don't get it. I was like, ding, 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 ding. That's how do you motivate a young guy, right?
Right.
So that was a mind shift and a paradigm for me. And when I started dressing better, I noticed people started treating me better. And I got out of my own narcissism. I got out of the, I don't owe the world anything. I can do what I want. Although maybe I'm slipping back into it now with sort of, slightly different, but still dressed up in stylish outfits. But it got me out of that narcissism of thinking that it doesn't matter. It damn well does matter, because it impacts the way that people treat you, which impacts your life, like it or not. Now, if somebody wants to continue playing life on hard mode, God bless them. But why would you continuously choose to live on hard mode? That's just punishing yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So there's an aspirational aspect to it. Like the company LGFG, it comes from a phrase. LGFG is look good, feel good. But what it stands for is when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. And when you play good, you get paid good.
That's exactly how I feel about it. And I know that as I go about my life, obviously I wouldn't turn up to an interview like this wearing gym clothes or sweatpants. But if I were to, I know I wouldn't do as good of a job at the interview. It's funny that you mentioned narcissism, because I think a lot of people who take great pride in their appearance would be accused of being narcissistic, or that very idea of being vain is narcissistic. But what you're saying is that actually the people that are so arrogant that they think they don't have to try, that they are the actual narcissists when it comes to not just their appearance, but the way they feel about themselves.
Sure. I mean, I think the narcissists are on both ends of the scale to the,
Yeah.
if you're going to take the time like you to dress up and present yourself the way you do, make sure you back it up with some accountability too. You can't be a hot air balloon. There's got to be other stuff in there, right?
Yeah, I've been working a lot on my content, more lifestyle-based content lately, and I know that you saw me on Instagram, but the YouTube is the real deal for me, and Instagram is just a series of clips. And I was out yesterday filming with a videographer, and I'd said just follow me around doing my work on a day-to-day kind of basis, because there are so many videos, and I'm sure you've seen these on social media, of the guy wearing the suit and he's just sipping the coffee, doing up the jacket, and that's not of anything of value. Men are meant to work, men are meant to create things, look good while doing it, but it can't just be about the posing and the clothes, in my opinion.
No, I haven't seen you on YouTube that much. I don't know, for some reason I only check our company's Instagram page from time to time, but I've been a little bit envious of your engagement. I was like, and by the way, your content you're very uniquely qualified to present your content, right? Like, I don't look the part of like the tailor and I don't speak like one. Like, of course I can intentionally, alter that and like slow down and like do the eloquent thing. And, like everybody must consider wearing a 1940s peak lapel, which is what James is wearing, with I think that's a 2x2 double-breasted. I can get into that. It's not me, and so...
We were talking earlier about Oki. The way that he does his things is tremendous. And when I did a podcast like this with him, I have to say I don't feel like that many people are truly charismatic and magnetic, but he was one of those people where I was just hanging on to every single word. And he gave me a little speech at the end just saying, I really love what you're doing and how important it is. And it was so good that I took that clip, I put it to some epic classical music, and I used it as my alarm for quite a few months after that. So every morning I would wake up at 6 a.m. He's like, you are on a mission.
Yeah.
When it comes to going back to the belief systems and what it says about you, do you think that today dressing up is a countercultural move?
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know if you watched my trigonometry podcast.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's literally what we talk about, right? So clothing always sort of precedes counterculture. And today's counterculture is like literally Christianity, right? Like that's, today, it's like today's people that are, it used to be like Rage Against the Machine, but then Rage Against the Machine is like, wear a mask and get your 8 shots. It's like, that's, like we are the institution. I'm like, I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just weird,
Yes, it's like, it's flipped.
Yeah, Neil Young was like, keep on rocking in the free world. And then Neil Young left Spotify because of Joe Rogan. It's like, dude, didn't you sing Keep on Rocking in the Free World? What the hell, So yeah, absolutely. The concern, and this is cyclical. Like if you read about like civilization over time, this has happened many, many times.
I feel like, and I wasn't around here, but maybe you have a bit more of an insight onto this. When I look at the 1980s, not just in terms of the culture, but also the fashion, I feel like we're entering a renaissance of that type of attitude and the way people present themselves. What do you think about that? Yeah,
we're more like 1950s, but yeah. So because, the 1950s were Renaissance for fashion because the 40s we had World War II. And World War II came with some social restrictions, including fabric rationing. So there's actually a really great scene in The Godfather where Vito Corleone, the main character, he just gets out of the hospital, okay? And, and what's interesting, this was during World War II, like this was during the war, and fabric rationing was a thing. And Vito is wearing a full cut double-breasted suit with a vest.
Okay, wow.
Which is actually very important because it's meant to trigger like this visual to show us how superfluous he was, like how exorbitant he was living. Because it was at a time that you couldn't even get fabric, and he's wearing a double-breasted suit completely pointlessly with a vest underneath. Because that's not something you typically do, right? It's like nobody sees the vest, right? But it's showing that he's got all the resources to do this with. That was a juxtaposition of how people were living at the time. It was a very important scene. So at least for those of us that understand fashion, right? So in the 1950s, though, the rationing had stopped, and so you saw suits coming back to a fuller classical cut. And that sort of was the renaissance of tailoring. Tailoring was also, was booming in the 30s, even though the Depression was happening. It was booming in the 30s with Cary Grant and Gary Cooper. These were like guys that really started popularizing Savile Row for the celebrity culture at the time. And really the first time celebrities started getting noticed for the clothing that they were wearing. Like this became a really big thing. Movies had gone from silent film to talkies, I guess what you call movies, right? Because they move, we talk, and then the 40s it all died down, and in the 50s it came roaring back. So we are definitely seeing that reemergence or a renaissance of what we saw in the 50s. Let's see where it goes.
Obviously, as you mentioned, in the 40s there was the rationing, so the style of the suit would literally be influenced by the availability and the price of the fabric.
Yes.
Even though I'd imagine that plays less of a determining role in terms of can we afford to make the suit, do you still think that generosity in terms of room, fabric, width plays a role to the affluence that people feel in society at the time?
At the time, I could see that being the case. It's like when something is hard to get and then you're able to get it, I mean, there's certainly a status symbol associated with it. We buy nice cars because look, self-actualization is a real desire people have. It might come after food and shelter, but it's there. And when you're especially in the market like suits, you are catering to achiever types, either those that aspire to be achievers or those that are achievers, right? And we know that achievers are very much driven by self-actualization. Like, hey, I'd spent a long time going to law school. I'd spent a long time becoming a partner at this firm. And it's just like me to consume a product of this nature.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we put that above even, not shelter, but maybe food. There are definitely men out there that will try and eat less so they can buy more clothes.
Yeah, that's pathetic. And that's and that is pathetic. And I'll say that that's the thing I talked about, like, just a couple minutes ago when we talked about, like, narcissism. It's like, yeah, presentation matters. And I can tell you this as an authority in the marketplace, however you want to perceive me as one or not, but I am an authority in the marketplace just because, well, the numbers are there, and that's what matters to me. That's how you really establish market authority. And now there's going to be people that hear this that are going to get very angry because they like to present their opinion on social media and not care about the actual, like, business behind the business, but the business matters, right? So I'll say this is an authority in the marketplace. Like, everybody expects me to say that your image is first and foremost. It's like, no, your character is first and foremost. And dude, if you're not buying necessities in order to buy a suit, unless you have a very, very good purpose for it, like straight up, like you just got a job as an investment banker and you want to get a career promotion. If you're, like, teetering on the edge of narcissism, that's sad. And that's poor character. And poor character is not going to override poor character will shine through bad clothing,
Right. I'm often hearing the opposite problem that people are having, where they join the law firm, they get the job in finance, and they were hoping to get to dress like I do. And they get there and everybody's wearing Allbirds and athleisure stretch shirts and Lululemon pants. For people who are in that predicament, how do you recommend that they navigate those power games, those dynamics of clothing and dressing how they want to dress, but without stepping on people's toes?
Well, they're just in the wrong law firm. I mean, they probably aren't in a Magic Circle firm, and they should work on being a better lawyer. Because when I meet with a $1,000 an hour corporate lawyer, and I'll tell you right now, he's not going to be wearing athleisure.
Oh, right.
That would be disrespectful, and I expect, like, a competent representation. And I spend a lot of time in those firms. So, yeah, maybe in the back rooms, whatever, they're doing something else. But, those professions typically come with a client-facing element.
I think there are also young men out there that, when you envision the life that you want as an adult, part of it might be the way that you present yourself, and therefore they go down a certain career path because it fits in with that overall lifestyle. Do you think there is any wisdom in that strategy, or do you think that's a little bit vain? Okay.
No, of course, 100%. Like, listen, you think 100% of the kids in medical school are in medical school because they just really want to conduct proctology exams?
Oh no, definitely not.
No, I guarantee you that's probably not higher on their list. But I've played hockey with a medical student team for years when I was in university, so I got to know a lot of medical students. Let me tell you, a lot of them really wanted the prestige of being a doctor, and the money comes with it. And that's fine. They became amazing doctors in all sorts of fields, right? But they weren't, so yeah, there was a drive for a certain status, and of course that exists in professions that require high academic achievement as well. That's got to be a drive. Yeah, I would love to say that everybody's motive is just altruistic. That's not the case.
No, absolutely.
And it could be mixed in with other motives, but yeah, of course, like, personal status is very important when one is conducting their, the search for their career.
Yeah, definitely. For me, when I started doing this social media thing, it was a passion project. I didn't imagine that it would become a full-time job, but as it did, I realized, this is finally how I get to express myself and dress in the way that I want. Because, I was a mainstream journalist, and I was kind of going toward the TV anchor route. That was what I wanted to do. But even those guys, okay, you get to wear a suit and a tie, but it wasn't top style exactly on the TV. And I thought maybe I could do it in my own way, but ultimately I just ended up creating the job that I would have wanted. And I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur or any kind of creative profession that you make for yourself. You get to, instead of dressing for the job you want, make the job that you want, and then you get to dress for that.
Yeah, we all make the job that we want. People don't really realize that. Even in a corporate like environment, whatever it is you're doing, you're literally creating the thing you're doing, right?
That's true. That's true.
It's a good locus of control. And people that don't believe that, I the number one piece of advice I give anybody that joins our company early on is I'll say, look, like, I'm not going to interact with you every day. Like, there are people and layers of people between us. But here's what I will say: because there's like, what's the one piece of advice? Don't be a victim. That's the worst thing. Is like, imagine like it's like one thing being your own biggest fan. That sounds great, but imagine being your own biggest detractor. Like, that's just sad.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people as well.
Right, and I don't like that. And that's what we talked about. The political thing. It's like that is a terrible, 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 terrible way to live your life. And I can't, for the life of me, imagine why people choose to do that.
Right, and I do think it's hard when you take pride in your appearance and you wear clothes that make you feel good. It's hard to feel like a victim, and there's definitely an element of individualism that comes with that. I'm in Chicago. And when I look around at the skyscrapers, the great variety and the beauty of the architecture, that's inherently a capitalist thing. The architect is given the freedom to create that, and as long as they can find the money for it, then that comes to life. I've not been to any former Soviet countries, but from what I've read, there is a uniformity to the buildings. Right. Am I right?
It's brutalist. Nobody likes brutalist architecture, right?
Yeah. So one thing that I do think has changed, particularly when it comes to formal wear, is because in corporate America for several decades, men had to wear a suit. There was always a percentage of men that were wearing a suit begrudgingly, right? And they didn't really like it. How do you think now the relationship has changed with the suit now that it's become more optional for the vast majority of people?
Well, look, if the thing that is begrudging you at work is the fact that you have to wear a suit, then you have a pretty darn good life. Like, that is a high bar for failure. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that you don't like about what you have to do at work, and that's the thing you're thinking about. Like, dude, you got a good life, Sometimes I'm very happy for the problems I have. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes people saw it as a symbol of their corporate slavery. The tie, the suit. It was like, this is the uniform that I have to wear.
I tell people this all the time. Sometimes we get resentful our handcuffs, but let's just be glad they're golden. That's, I understand that you can be resentful about that and all that, but that's a great problem. Like, right. One time I was stuck in France. It was the stupidest situation. I got stuck in France. I was flying there to help train a sales rep. We had just hired this like 12 years ago, and I was texting with my best buddy. He was like, dude, where are you? I'm like, I'm in Paris. It sucks. There's no flights out for the next day. I don't like it here. Yeah. And he goes, oh, your CEO problems. How sad for you. How sad for you, And I was like, yeah, it's true. So, look, here's the deal. I tell this a lot. This is, again, one of those mentorship things that I do with people that are sort of growing in our business is this. There are always elements, no matter how much you love your job, there's always elements of your job you won't love.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Fact, yeah. Right? Of course. Like aforementioned, I'm sure people that are enjoying the lifestyle of being a doctor, let's say in North America, and the prestige of the profession that comes with that, the way society loves doctors, which is great, and yada, yada, yada. But you still got to put your finger up a butt once in a while. And that's probably not your favorite thing to do. I would hope that's not a proctologist's favorite thing to do, And that's probably something that you can be a little bit resentful about, yada, blah, 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 blah. So it's like there's always a element to each of our jobs we're not going to love. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. It can't be 90% of your job. And I'm sure that 90% of the person's job who's wearing a suit and begrudging it is not wearing a suit.
Yeah, I think that's where some young men go wrong as well when they're trying to discover their passion or be entrepreneurial, is that it starts to feel like real work again. And you go, oh, well, this can't be my passion. There's always going to be elements that feel like real work. If somebody gave me $1 billion and told me you don't have to work anymore, I would still be doing this right now, just for fun. But there are still going to be elements of this when I'm downloading the files and editing it and uploading it where I think, really, this isn't particularly fun. But it's fulfilling. I think that's the important thing. Do you get fulfilled at the end of the day? With the resentful side of people looking at suiting and ties as corporate and slave attire, now is there any part of your job or people like me where it's a responsibility and a message to share that no, this is no longer the corporate attire. This is what you wear when you want to feel great. This is what you wear because you choose to wear and because you love it.
Well, I mean, why would, if you can look good and feel good about it, why would you limit yourself?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And by the way, it's like, and some people might say, I won't look good and feel good. Okay, fine, don't. It's fine. Like, I can't convince somebody to be open-minded to improving their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that people have the same, it's funny, like people, I've had my own clients, over the years before I started, being behind the scenes a little bit, but thousands of clients. And working with clients, they would always say, how do I look my best in a suit, my color, blah, blah. I'm like, look, the thing that you should do number one before anything else is just get in like good shape.
Mm.
But like, that's what, and it's like, oh, I have to do this and that, and it's hard. It's like, yeah, but there are certain benefits to it, right?
Yes.
And not everybody is going to, and I certainly let my fat ass get gluttonous over time too. So, it's happened. But at the end of the day, like, it's how you treat yourself is your choice. And again, isn't it weird how we don't treat ourselves very well sometimes?
I think it was Jordan actually who had the idea of treat yourself like somebody you love. And even on small things, sometimes I think about, let's say it's raining and instead of walking 10 minutes, I could get the Uber and I don't. I think, well, if I was with somebody I loved, I would get them the Uber, but I'm not going to do that for myself.
There it is, right? So
yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna force or convince anybody like, you should wear a suit and it should be cut like this and blah 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 blah. It's like, I think people are too smart to be patronized, but it's something. I'll say this: the people that have tried it seem to be enjoying it. They seem to be benefiting from it in their personal, professional lives.
Yes.
Why deny yourself the opportunity to see what it can do?
Yes. And one of the things that you noticed when you started dressing up, which I think many people experience, is that people treat you better and people treat you differently. With today's culture, do you think that people will also perceive you differently in sense of perhaps your political beliefs? I definitely noticed that people overall interpret me as more conservative because of the way I dress.
I mean, man, imagine if you were wearing like a hoodie on the street, how they interpret you, right? Like, this shit's skin deep, pardon my French, right? Mm-hmm. That's never going to change, I don't think. I think people have always, look, when I dressed like crap, some people didn't like that. When I dress well, some people don't like that. But, God, it's just so much better driving a Bentley in a suit, Like, you just don't care that much.
Right. There's also the element.
Straight up, fuck them. I was just saying, fuck them.
Yeah.
Like if that's the attitude you take towards success, if you resent success, and if, let's say, if somebody resents success and they see you as some kind of a aspiration towards that which they resent, or the culmination of something that they resent, then like which person would you rather be in that transaction?
Yes. Well, I see it as a great filter, particularly when it comes to dating, because if a woman doesn't like the way that I present myself, chances are she probably doesn't present herself in a way that I like. And there's
she doesn't
also
like her. I think more deeply, she doesn't like herself, because what young woman wouldn't aspire to be with a man who aspires to be his best self? Like, that just sounds great, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think right now there is a beauty in very masculine traits, very masculine aesthetics, and very feminine aesthetics. And right now, that has been eroded, right, somewhat. There's very much of an androgynous middle ground. What do you think about the power of having a very masculine aesthetic or a very feminine aesthetic for a woman?
I mean, do what fits well with you.
Do you make suits for women ever, by the way?
Do I? Yeah, lots of women.
Okay.
Of course, but they're corporate, and so again, we had this discussion on trigonometry too. It's like, I don't know how to dress a woman for, rising up through the corporation other than like some form of a suit. It's a pantsuit or a skirt suit or women can get a 4-piece, right? They can get like pants, a skirt, a vest, and like interchange it with a jacket.
Right.
So we men have a 3-piece. Women can get a 4-piece because we have pants. We don't have skirts for a pantsuit, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's all this social conditioning stuff that we're told, and yet we still tend to revert to our biological sort of bred in DNA level behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something, like when a lady sees a guy dressed to his best potential and cleaned up to his best potential, that's gonna get a better reaction than a guy that's not there, is 40% there or 20% there. Likewise, as much as there are obviously outliers in any standard distribution curve, of course, most straight men, not saying all, most straight men are gonna find feminine features attractive because it's in our DNA. I don't care how much you argue it, it's in our DNA. So who are we to try to deconstruct or even just blow up that for which we seem to have been designed? I don't know, by science or by what. It's there.
Right.
And again, I've always found that the things that I wanted came to me easier when I gave the market what the market wanted. Which I find is to be the best version of me, not the worst version of me. The market really doesn't like that guy.
I also, when I think about the female equivalent to, let's say, what I'm wearing today, that when you picture a man dressed like this and the woman that would be next to him, she's not wearing a pantsuit or a skirt suit.
She's wearing
the opposite. It's a
she's
cocktail
wearing a beautiful
dress.
Yeah, like a pencil skirt and like a nice blouse, of course, obviously, right? There's a polarity that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that society is very co-ed right now, and you see that in the way that people dress as well. Trainers all the time, sweatpants, hoodie. This could be for a man or for a woman. It doesn't matter because it's so shapeless. I do think there's something very special. And when I do a lot of events, by the way, for people that watch the channel, and an opportunity for like-minded men to get together. And aside from the occasional party where wives and girlfriends are involved, it's for men only. And I have women message me, or I'll meet people and they say, "Oh, can I come?" And I say, to be honest, it actually is just for men, because I think there's something very valuable about having those spaces. And I hope those groups exist for women too. But it doesn't always have to be mixed. You actually lose something sometimes when you start mixing those things.
Yeah, I can't use my sense of humor in its unfiltered form around women. That's okay. Is what it is.
It's funny when you mentioned the hoodie. I was thinking about creating a character for when I do my more long form demonstrations on YouTube of do's and don'ts of etiquette. I was thinking I could create an alter ego where I wear like a pink hoodie, I have a vape, there's hair on my face, I'm hunched over on my phone. TikTok brain.
It's super funny. I made Michael Franzese. I have a book with Michael Franzese, and we just released. It's called. Oh, hang on a sec. I'm not plugging. I'm just saying I should have. Oh yeah. Dress like a boss. So I put like a full encyclopedia of tailoring.
Nice.
Everything. Like really a full encyclopedia. Like it's like 260 pages. Like for example, like what are all the different types of shoes, right? And which shoes are appropriate for which events and with which suit patterns.
Right.
So like really like went very in detail, because I know a lot about this stuff, right? Despite the fact that I'm dressed how I'm dressed, but which is what I like to wear. But then with Michael Franzese, like I did, because he's a guy that has like a mafia past. Yeah. Like really in that, and great guy. So I made him like a real mafia suit. I did a boxer suit, which is a warm-up suit, which is a chaff suit. Zip up everything. And I did it with a hoodie.
Right.
And it was so cool that I got one. So actually I have a tailored like wool, like 140s, beautiful, like wool, silk wool, with like a little silvery pattern. It's so amazing. It looks so high end. And I have a tailored like hoodie sweatsuit made in the suit fabric, constructed half canvas. It's insane.
Now, I'm sure that is the height of comfort.
That's what I wear. I was flying. I just landed, which is why I'm sort of like ill-spoken right now. I was doing a conference in Vegas, and I live in Estonia. And I had 18 hours of travel, and I'm literally sleeping on the plane wearing this like tailored like hoodie suit.
Yeah. What do you think about air travel fashion for men? Because I do typically encourage men to, you don't have to wear a suit, but I always wear a sports coat or a blazer, probably a polo shirt. I do believe that it's part of the beauty of society is how people dress. We create the environment. And I hate it. You've probably seen this in Vegas especially, and just the United States in general. You can go to a beautiful historic restaurant, eat great food, beautiful pictures on the wall, but then a guy's wearing jeans and a hoodie and New Balance, and it disrupts the atmosphere.
Yeah, so that guy is probably worth $100 million, right? Like,
I know.
seriously.
Yeah.
Like I say this all the time to my wife. I'm like, business class is a funny thing. So I was always like, if I had to do something, go somewhere, I was always economy. I mean, look, I started out with nothing, just transparently. I had to build my way up from nothing, and that's cool. It was a great journey, and I think I reminisce very, well, how do I put this? I nostalgically about those years. Those good years. And I would just hate flying, scrunched up, but everybody stinks, etc.
Yeah.
And then finally, after more than a decade of really, really hard work and some semblance of success, I started to be that guy going to business class. And the first time I went, I'm in a suit, I'm like, and then I started kind of paying attention. And there's levels, and you can tell where somebody is in life. Mm-hmm. So there's the guy in the business suit in business class is either going straight into a meeting, or he doesn't do this very often. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of that, you have the guy in business class that's wearing like a sweaty t-shirt and jeans. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that guy's got $100 million. He's just stopped giving any fucks. That's just how it is. Right.
Or the very rare occasion of the guy just loves dressing well, and that's why he's dressed well.
Could be, class. But again, of course, there's outliers, right? But I'm saying like there's sort of like, it's interesting. You kind of, I just find it fascinating how you can like read like somebody's life like that.
Yeah.
And then there's somebody that shows up to business class wearing actual pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
And
well, that's one thing No, go ahead.
No, but that's young money, and that's a flex. That's like, okay, this guy, so that's cool. So yeah, if you're in a restaurant like that and the person's dressed, it's like, this is young money. That's what it does. Like I remember Zuckerberg or even Steve Jobs before that, and Steve Jobs was like, I'm the anti-corporate guy. First of all, you're leading the largest corporation on earth. And you're like, I'm going to wear turtlenecks, and then Zuck started copying that, right? And it sort of became this thing, but it was that sort of like a fuck you to the establishment, because those guys weren't making their money in the traditional industries. Those guys were making money in disruptive industries. Now what I do is I see that with Bitcoin people. Mm-hmm. We have a contingent of clients that are these young millionaires that are in crypto, right?
Right.
They're buying the craziest clown suits. Great, I'll make them. But it's like nobody in an office would ever wear that. They just want to be pimps, right?
Yeah.
They have the status and the money to do so. So God bless them. Let's go. But the thing is, the thing I find interesting is that like young guys copy that. And I've done some videos on that too. Guys like, oh, I don't need to wear a suit because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't wear a suit. It's like, dude, you're not worth $40 billion. What are you doing? Mm. Like you don't have the status to show such disagreeability to society. Like you're at the bottom of the hierarchy. Show some respect.
Right. Well, I do think as a British person who moved to the US 3 years ago, and I used to live in LA, which is more of this new money type of mindset. Personally, I found it quite distasteful, this American idea of because I'm so rich, I don't have to care. I don't think that exists so much in Europe. I don't know what it's like in Estonia, in Eastern Europe, though. No,
so Europe, there's an ethos for that in the States. America is by culture, not England. Mm-hmm. Like that's not written into the Constitution, but it might as well say we are not England, mm-hmm. right? So England has very strong class distinctions, and people are it's interesting in England too. People don't like intermingling between classes because classes are seen as sort of these rigid containers that people fit into. You kind of see that like, oh, I wouldn't go to that school because my kids are in this class. In fact, from what I understand, and I think you'll agree with this, like people in England sometimes are afraid if they're not in the aristocratic or upper classes, they're afraid to mingle with anybody who is, or they'll be seen as like betrayers of their class.
There's a certain inverse snobbery, for sure.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Inverse snobbery, right? And so what happens with that, you kind of get this cut the poppy off of the head mentality where like when somebody's aspiring for greatness, and I've had this conversation with my business partners and leads, they're like, when somebody's showing ambition, aspiring for greatness, it's somebody else going to try to nib the bud, like cut that flower down. And so what that creates is that, again, there's that sort of like barrier between the classes where in the States, people move a lot more fluidly. The American dream is to make it. We're supposed to celebrate success in the States, right?
Absolutely. And I found that I don't know if I would have done what I did if I was still in the UK, just because of you're in that mental energy of people and everybody's kind of on that similar frequency of, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Oh, it's a bit risky. Whereas in the US, as soon as you have an idea, even if it's honestly quite a cockeyed type of idea, people will be very encouraging. And once you have had some level of success, I mean, for me, being able to make more money than I made in a 9-to-5 was the first thing that I thought, okay, this is some level of success. People love hearing that. People find that inspirational in the US. in the UK, I think people interpret it as it just makes them feel worse about their current situation. People don't celebrate each other's successes in the same way. And obviously, I have a lot of love for the UK. I still feel loyal to it in some sense. But if any young man has the opportunity to come to the US, luckily I had dual citizenship. And they make it hard if you don't. But if you have the opportunity, just being around this mindset of people, this entrepreneurial spirit and attitude is so valuable. It really is.
Well, the same thing reflected in clothing, right? Which is why people in the States tend to not conform to the kind of not gender, but wealth stereotypes or class stereotypes to clothing, because there's just less context to the society. It's a little bit more fluid.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's expected. I think it's expected,
Yeah, and I personally, I'm glad that I had the British upbringing and then was able to come to America as a young man. I think there's something nice about having that blend. And a lot of the things that I like about British society are perhaps also just more European. When I go back to London and you're around Savile Row and the gentlemen's members clubs, there is an element to that which is very snobby, and there's something I don't like about that. Particularly because my message is for young men.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help people raise themselves up. I don't want them to feel like there is a ceiling or a container below which they must stay at. And there is something definitely about British society that keeps people in those containers.
Well, and that society is right now sort of looking kind of decimated, man. I go to London a lot. I hate it, because I'm basically watching the disintegration of it right in front of my eyes, like a dying flower.
Right.
And it's sad. And England was so great for such a long time and brought so much, some bad, but a lot of good to the world, man. Like, so I hope that the States continue to carry that torch. And man, yeah, I'm very, that's something I'm pretty passionate about. Like, and I take a lot of interest in that because I'm always so inspired when I go to the States, when I go to the right places in the States. And England, I'm just always just like, I get to London, I'm like, I just want to leave,
What are some of your favorite places in the States?
Oh, I like Texas, as you might imagine. I actually like LA, like Newport Beach is great.
Oh, yeah.
Arizona, Vegas is cool. I like anywhere, like, I got into a cab yesterday. The guy was driving a Denali, like a truck, big American flag, and listening to country music. Because I don't know his name, I don't remember, probably Bill or Bob. It was awesome, or Bill Bob, and it was awesome. You had country music, and I was like, man, I felt free.
Right. There's definitely a strong sense of culture in some parts of the US that they haven't lost. It hasn't become homogenized. One thing that I noticed when I moved here would be, you could even go into Starbucks in Chicago or New York and they're playing Billie Holiday in the Starbucks. Whereas in the UK, it's like we don't respect our own past in the same sense, especially musically.
Right.
It's all just top 40, whatever's trending right now. There was no respect for, like, why don't we have Led Zeppelin playing in the grocery store? We do in the US, but in the UK, we don't. Very
Hey, James,
interesting.
can I ask you for a second? I don't know if this pod will be edited, but my son is calling me. Can I just call him real quick?
Please do. No worries.
I'll put the sound mute. It'll be like 30 seconds.
No problem. It's funny that your son called because I heard you mention that you bought your son, he was 8 at the time, a suit, and you put him in that suit. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was so funny. It was just this past summer. I took him to Hong Kong with me for the lecture, just a nice little father-son trip. I'm like, I got 4 kids, by the way. So like this is, I got it like now. Oh, the other one's trips, right? It was cool, man. It was very, I probably felt better than he did because I was like, wow, like so cool to see him, like, I don't know. You look kind of young, so I don't think you've got kids yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like, I can't describe something that you haven't, conceptualized into reality because you just can't like describe that. It was just really cool, and you feel really proud. That was cool. That was neat, man. That was a cool feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't think I have the right words.
Right. I imagine there's also something beautiful about, in a way, you're introducing your son to your world. It's not just that he gets to experience a suit and it looks cool. It's also, this is what I do, and now you get to feel how I make my clients feel.
I would say more concisely, yes, but more concisely what I was feeling is like I got to introduce him to a little bit of manhood. That's really important for some reason. It's different raising sons and daughters because I got 2 of each. And so there's just a different level. Like with daughters, it's like you love them and you nurture them. But with sons, there feels like a different level of responsibility because the world's going to get kind of cruel for a while.
Yes.
You
Do you
know,
feel like you have to show your sons the path of life more than your daughters because you don't understand what it's like to be a woman in the
That's
same
probably
sense?
true. That's probably true.
Yeah.
That's probably true. Yeah. And also because violence is always at risk with men, you know. So there's like, it's like, you know, with women, like, you know, social conduct is still very important, of course, and they're much more social than men, it seems, at a young age, or boys. Well, certainly that's anecdotal, but it seems to be true to me that women seem are more social and they socialize. But like with boys, like, you know, if you're perceived as weak, that can be a real danger. And you know, that's a confidence thing, that's a communication thing, that's a constructive, you know, attitude, sort of socialized attitude thing. It's all sorts of things. But one of those things is also just like a degree of masculinity that shows that you are not weak. And I'm sure people will misinterpret that a million ways, and maybe I'm not being concise enough with the words I'm choosing here, right?
Well,
like,
you're also talking to an audience that has an understanding of what you're describing already. Yeah.
There it is. So
which
yeah,
is good.
Yeah, it is different with boys. And my wife would agree because, you know, you mentioned you were watching the Jordan Peterson interview with your mom, right? And I'm sure your mom probably thought it was a brilliant interview because she was next to her son. And I've seen like mothers that have, like, when my wife had boys, it was very interesting because like we go to a hockey game, my kids play hockey, and you know, my older boy's on the ice, and she's like, you know, show him, yeah, you know. And I'm like, whoa, she really wants him to win, and she's really proud when he wins. Right. It's a different competitiveness I've never seen in her that she's living through her son, and so there is a level of competency that I think we expect from our sons because, again, we know as women, I don't know how they perceive it, but I think as a man, I perceive it like we know the world can be a very cruel place to unaccomplished young men. Nobody knows you exist. Nobody cares you exist. And it can be very lonely. Yeah. Right? And Absolutely. The way out of that loneliness is to get really good at something.
I get people ask me a lot about mentorship, and I'm fortunate that I have people in my life now that are great mentors to me. But they never would have given me the time of day if I hadn't already done something to show that potential. You know, we all have potential. Right. And people, especially young guys, if only somebody could see my potential. You have to show it to them. That's the only way, really.
Oh, 100%. That's we can talk about that for hours, right? Like, so often people come to me and they're like, "Oh, here's what I want to do." I'm like, "So do it."
Right.
So do it. Like, well, I don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if it's going to work. That's the whole point.
I really do encourage more young men to be a bit riskier in their lives. And that doesn't mean go jumping off cliffs. It means taking risks that might pay off to create the life you want. Because it's so easy to be filtered through the education system into a corporate job that just leaves you feeling, like I've got the Mercedes and this house, but I'm 31 and I feel kind of dead inside.
Yeah, most of them won't even have a Mercedes. They just don't know that yet.
The Kia. I get
that. Yeah, you don't want to become a slave of your circumstance. That's probably what drove me to start a company, to be honest. Is I saw, you know, I sold encyclopedias door to door for 6 years, and that was like my sort of foray into business. And I remember I was in Ottawa in Canada, and this one summer it was like on the dot 6 p.m. I was on a street, you know, of cookie cutter houses that you can look down just for like miles. All you see is just rows of houses and like suburbia, sprawling suburbia. And all I could hear were forks clinking like against plates, and I could hear it all the way down the street. I'm like, holy crap! Everybody just got home from work and eating dinner at the same time. These are robots.
It's a very cinematic experience.
But they were robots, man, and it was. But they were robots, and then like, you know, I can look at a house and be like, oh, I can tell they've got teenagers because they've got that basketball hoop everybody bought 10 years ago. I can see that. Oh, those are retired folks. I can see, and I just realized people start to conform into patterns that they had absolutely no intent probably or design to conform to. They seemed so uninspired, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. Yeah,
absolutely. So, you know, there was a couple more things I wanted to talk to you about that were very different, so I'll kind of split this because I'm also conscious of your time. From some of the language that I picked up on from the way that you were talking about the way that you've achieved your goals and the way that you've worked toward them, I definitely got a sense of beliefs in auto-suggestion, subconscious manifestation, whatever you want to call it. Could you tell me a bit more about how that's a part of your worldview and your way of achieving goals?
Well, I think when I was younger, I don't know, I was very lucky to get around a group of people that had a sort of cognizance towards, self-talk.
Hmm.
And thank goodness, man, I became self-aware that I got a certain release of dopamine from just like hating myself and hating things around me. And it felt really, really good to be negative. It felt really, really good to gossip or to give up. It was like, that's not a thing that you want to associate with a good feeling, right? And so I took not on my own sort of volition. It was more like I was just around people that recognized that and were able to espouse a different set of values, that there was something else out there. And so I took it, with great intent. Lots of, books, everybody kind of maybe goes through the same books at the beginning, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Eventually it was like Man's Search for Meaning. A book I really like about autosuggestion is How to Speak When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. That's a really good one. It's all about affirmation, right?
Right.
Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World. I don't know if you've heard of that one. That's Matthew McConaughey's favorite book.
Okay, interesting.
And so, I probably read that a few thousand. I would probably recite it word for word. I shall greet this day with love in my heart, for this is the greatest secret of success in all ventures. Muscle can split, shield, and even take life, but only the unseen power of love can open men's hearts. And until I master this art, I shall remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. And I can keep going.
Wow.
And so that became really, really important to me and my ethos and development, that like I will... attitude is really, really, really important. And the further you go, people think it's like easier. No, you're just better equipped to handle. And by the way, like a really big part of success, I tell this to young guys. I'm looking across like my office, and there's a glass wall here, and for my throne, there's different thrones. We have a lot of thrones in the office. We like that. But there's all these like young guys, like 22, 23-year-old guys, just on the phone dialing prospects. It's the kind of company we are. And one of the things I tell them a lot is I know that they focus a lot on skills, because we teach them skills. I know they focus a lot on effort, because we talk to them about effort and the importance of effort. But young people don't often understand the importance of time. What I mean by that is a very large proportion of the people in the small group that are successful simply outlasted everybody else. And to do that, you're going to have to people don't fall off on their journey when it's easy. They fall off when it gets emotionally hard.
Right.
And so those are the moments that you separate yourself from the crowd, is when it's like COVID. A lot of tailoring businesses went out of business during COVID. We not only didn't go out of business, we had our best year ever coming out of COVID, and we continue to do that. Why? Because they said, look, this is going to sink a lot of competition. This could be good for us if we make it through.
Right.
It's exactly what happened. And that's an attitude thing. That's a self-talk thing. So that's something, unfortunately, schools don't teach.
Oh, not at all. One thing that I believe is even more valuable than time is also energy, because 1 hour can be spent very, very differently depending on what mindset you're in and how inspired you're feeling. I kind of came across this stuff by accident, because a few years ago, there were people around me that were reading The Secret and things like that. And I read it and I thought, this is a lot of baloney. I'm not for this at all. But then over the last month or so, I'd say, I just got on a very positive momentum, and ideas kept coming to me, and then things kept falling into place, and you just get on a very positive spiral. So now I'm very focused on keeping myself in that spiral. Yeah.
There, you're in flow. I like that.
Yeah. I'm reading this book, actually. It's right here. This is quite out there. Have you read this one, Reality Transurfing?
Haven't.
Okay, this is quite an interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's must be 800 pages, but this one's quite a good one. What I like about this is the concept is basically that it's almost like a parallel universe. If everything that could happen to you is happening right now, you're just choosing to be on this particular line, and you can choose to hop onto different lines depending on what your mindset is and what you're expecting and what you're setting yourself up for.
That's probably true.
Yeah. I mean, also, these things don't have to be scientifically true. They can be true in the sense that it's a thought experiment, that you adopt that frame and therefore it begins to work for you. I never worried about, am I sending out the right brain waves? Am I sending out the right vibrations? I worry about more, am I giving myself the right self-talk that I need?
Well, they're the same thing.
To create the thing, yeah.
You are responsible for the energy you bring to the room. Those are the same. Those are the same exact thing. What you tell yourself and what energy you put out are the exact same thing.
Yeah. And I noticed yesterday I had bank appointments at 9 a.m. So I was walking through downtown at what would be the commuting time, which I never do anymore. And I was feeling great. I've got this appointment with the bank. It's going really well. I'm wearing a nice suit. I'm going to have a great day today. I feel like I'm beaming with positive energy. But then I walk past people going to work and I just sense the inner death in their eyes. You know, even when you make eye contact with people and smile at them, it's just like... Yeah.
They're not your people anymore, man. Congratulations.
No. Yeah, that's true. Do you have a process or a pattern for your goal attainment these days? You mentioned that you had the rock as the screensaver. Is that one of those techniques that you have used?
Yeah, it's one of them. I don't know so much anymore if I'm as disciplined as I was, because I think once you get into a certain frequency, it kind of just happens.
Right. You don't have to force yourself into that pattern anymore.
Well, and that might also just be because the culmination of doing it for 20 years. It's sort of become part of my character, and so that's just what it is, you know. And it's like you to get to expect what you get and to get what you expect anyways. So I'm probably subconsciously doing a lot of those things that I had to consciously be aware of in the past. But for sure, like the visual cues around you, like the things that are around you, even if you're not consciously paying attention to them, subconsciously you will absorb them. So the environment does become important, which is why I sit on a throne. Maybe, I don't know. Feels freaking
One thing
awesome.
I do if people send me a letter, I stick them all up above my desk, and it's not like I'm reading these letters every day as a habit, but I know they're there. It reminds me of what I'm doing, and to go about it in a certain way. Is there anybody now that's on your dream client list?
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't think so. Okay, how about like Elon Musk would be cool, because I just think he's such a crazy outlier of a human. I mean, obviously, such a crazy outlier of a human being. So maybe that, but I kind of feel like it'll just have to happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's you don't want to have pride to take the fall, but like I don't know. I just kind of feel like at some point, like he's just gonna have to wear an LGFG suit, like everybody else he knows does.
Right.
You know, all of his friends are wearing our stuff.
Yeah, he's a very casual guy as well.
He wears suits sometimes. He's barrel chested, so custom would be just awesome for him, right?
Right.
That's a hard body figuration, but like. I had Zuby do a podcast with him in a custom LGFG jacket. Obviously, Jordan Peterson wearing an LGFG jacket with him. God Sod had a podcast, I think it was a podcast or a meeting with him and wearing one of our jackets. And the list just goes on and on and on. And like so many people that he's met, he's shaken hands with, were wearing one of our jackets.
So next time he needs a suit, it's going to be logical that eventually it will be you guys.
He won't. Yeah. He doesn't even. I don't think he'll ever need a suit. Next time we're in the same room, I'll make sure that.
Right.
And then, by the way, that's you talked about like your thing being like on social media and like kind of like going that way, and Prof's thing being like very charismatic, and like on camera kind of thing. My thing is like I just know how to get in. I just get into the room, man. I get into all that's my thing is getting into the room, right? Like I picked up Kevin Spacey and a couple months ago, and put him in one of our suits, and people are just like, that's just what I do.
Right.
Everybody's got that thing, man. That's my thing. So it's interesting, you kind of brought that up because it got me thinking like, well, that's my thing. So we'll end up in the same room. I'll say hi, be like, hey man, I think it's time you have a suit made out of space suit fabric, which is exactly what I want to do.
Oh, I like it.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah. We have a new president in the US. What's your opinion on how a leader of the US should dress?
Yeah, I had a big podcast about that. Trump really changed the style from the election. It's the thing about suits is like, unless you're in the business, you might not even notice it. It's funny. I just did a suit for Piers Morgan. I was in London, and he's got the Trump lining. It's so funny. It was intentionally meant to be like very country, like
Of course, like everything Piers does.
Yeah, I love it. And Piers promised me that he will wear that suit if and when Trump keeps his promise of doing an interview in the White House with him. But Trump in the 2016 election had a definitely more ominous message. He was wearing darker suits, very poorly fitted. He just kind of liked these big suits. It was very like American billionaire, like from New York, And then now, in 2024, and he's running. He's wearing Kennedy blue, which is a lighter shade of blue. and his ties got less preposterously long, and his pants had become less preposterously oversized. There was a definite image change that happened with Trump, which made him look more like a positive president versus like a president that's there to win, not a president that's just there to make the other side lose.
Right.
And it probably came from the fact that the other side just tried so damn hard to lose, as far as I could tell. That, all political advisors to him were probably like, hey, just don't screw it up, man. Just be you and be okay. You'll be fine.
Yes.
It's probably all it took. The U.S. presidents, I think, have been sort of over the years getting their suits made in Chicago. Except, Bill Clinton sort of broke that chain a little bit. Was it Greenberg, right? The famous tailor died a couple of years ago. I think Martin Greenberg was his name. That Bill Clinton went to him. Then Obama got Canali, which everybody was just blown away by. It is rumored that Trump wears Brioni, but I don't know. Like, those suits don't look, they just don't look great on him. So maybe it's Brioni, but he's just buying them, big, whatever. Boy, that'd be a cool client, wouldn't it?
What do you think? What do you think's going on there, where you have somebody who has unlimited resources to be stylish and buy the best clothes, yet he, for the longest time, made what we would call very beginner mistakes of the tie down way below the crotch and just overall ill-fitting suits and shiny red satin ties. What's going on there?
I sort of take the contrarian position. A lot of people think Trump is kind of dumb. Man, fine. That's cool. I think he's freaking brilliant. Like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm saying I lean this way or that way. I just think he's really, really smart. Like, and just like, to compete in the field he's competed in New York, which is maybe the toughest city to be a developer in and to win.
Absolutely.
And to win for so long. I think the tie is I think he's just trying to, I think it's a power move.
Oh, really?
I think it's a dick thing. I seriously do. I think he's just like, hey, look at that, I really believe, I really think he's out there trolling the world with that, right? And I know it's like people are like, that's a weird way to interpret it, but that is exactly how I interpret that.
I had a boss, my first ever job. It was a really boring corporate marketing type job, and my boss was a woman who was very bitter about a lot of things. And she said, I don't like ties because they point toward a certain part of the male anatomy. And I thought, my God, how ridiculous is this? But maybe you could do it in that way as well if you wanted to.
Well, I guess you can interpret it both ways, right?
Yeah, that's true. Do you think there's a message that is sent when you choose to wear either a single cuff or a double cuff with the cufflinks? I'm wearing these very interesting cufflinks with an eagle on one side and a snake on the other right now. Yeah. These are from a company called Fort Belvedere, but I don't think these are for sale yet. Okay. Maybe they will be by the time this is released. What's the message of a cufflink versus a single cuff with a button?
There's a few messages. I actually cover that in my book as well. And there's different kinds of cufflinks, right? Because you can have like a square cut, or you can have a triangle cut cufflinks, all sorts of things, right? Well, the main message is, of course, formality, right? The cufflink is more formal, and formality is sort of synonymous with reverence and respect, right? So if you're showing a little bit of respect, maybe cufflinks are the way to go. But there's another message. I talked a little bit again about this on a podcast I did with Trigonometry, is that when Biden and Trump went out for the debate, right before Biden was replaced, I looked at Biden's outfit and I said, I think he's going to be replaced just based on the outfit. Now, that's not the strongest proxy, like, for I think you're going to be replaced. Like, there were other signs, stronger ones.
But it fits in with the overall feeling you're getting.
And one of the things is, Trump is wearing cufflinks and Biden was wearing button cuffs. And I thought, look, and I actually recorded an hour-long podcast about this. And by the way, I'm in a business now, I've been doing this for so long, that I find it very boring to talk about, like, hey, this is a gray suit. Like, it's boring. I love your content because you deliver it with enthusiasm, man. That's what I said. I noticed you because I'm like, that guy, like, likes talking about striped suits. I'm just like, striped suits, right? But what I do like, but as it gets more granular, it gets more interesting to me, right? So Biden is wearing button cuffs, and everybody during that election is questioning this guy. I mean, look, let's just call a spade a spade. We all thought he probably had dementia. Like, something was off, And he was wearing a four-in-hand tie knot, which is the simplest tie knot to tie, right? By the way, I call it an overhand tie knot in my slang. I go overhand. because
Okay.
it's just like a shoelace. It's like,
Sure, yeah.
so I call it a foreign, but I think foreign hand would have been good to say because it's a foreign hand guiding it. Maybe a little insinuation there, but I don't know. So he's wearing this, the most basic tie knot. He's wearing button cuffs, and I'm like, dude, everybody thinks you're mentally over the hill. Like, don't do that. Like,
At least show that you can do some dexterity.
right, like show something haptic, like show you've got some like ability to maneuver things. If I was Biden, I'd be wearing the biggest, shiniest cufflinks there. I'd be like, look at these cufflinks, they're so shiny, and so look at I would have done, not a Trinity knot probably, because that's again getting a little wild, but at least go half or full Windsor just to show like you can tie things, So maybe there's another thing there. It just shows like a degree of like just functionality and just like domain over your own body. I thought it was such a terrible choice for him to go with a basic forehand knot and button cuffs. I'm going like, dude, you're already like coming off as old and decrepit. Like, look better, do that more, So maybe that's something else.
I do like power dressing overall, and I do think there's something more powerful about wearing a cufflink versus a button is just inherently a weaker looking thing, right? Than a cufflink made of metal.
Well, did you know that turtlenecks are actually perfectly fine for formal business?
Really? I mean, personally, I never wear them because they just look
I know, it's
horrendous on me,
shocking.
but...
I know. It's shocking. I was doing research, and I'm gonna like flip to the book. I sometimes have to check this stuff too, because I'm like, because I did a lot of research on this, right? So obviously a turtleneck cannot be worn with a tie, but so look at that. So a turtleneck is not good for business casual. It's all right for business. A turtleneck's weird. It works for semi-formal.
What's the logic there, would you say, in terms of business formal, even though it's not with a tie?
But you can actually wear it formally. It's right here. Like I did a lot of research for this. You can actually wear it formally. I think the logic is there are certain kinds of formal events where obviously a cardigan wouldn't work and a V-neck would look a little bit too business casual. But if you're wearing a black turtleneck, under a navy suit, I think there's a formal look to that.
That's true, yeah. Or with a gray suit,
ballsy.
sure.
It'd be ballsy to pull it off, right?
Yeah. Obviously, this is highly individual, but I know that you're passionate about young men developing themselves, and it's something that you do with your employees. Overall, what is the message you think a young man should be sending to the world, and how can he do that with his clothing?
Well, I think a good message is that I'm aspiring to be more than what I am. And I think clothing is a pretty much as a direct reflection of that as it possibly can be.
Right. And that can look like different garments depending on the situation, but there's always the potential to show that you're working towards something with your clothing.
And not being afraid, of working towards something. If you want to show it, great. But most importantly is don't be the person wanting to show it than the person wanting to actually be it, right? Like your level of effort has to match your level of ambition.
Well, I think we should leave it there. That's cool. A nice note to end it on. Dimitry, thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully we can carry on talking and maybe do this in person at some point in the future.